Did you say Michael check?
Yeah, because Mike is short for Michael.
Thanks for explaining that, Wes. I really appreciate it. Wes, this is our second take because you were talking into the back of the mic.
Oh, yeah, that's too bad because I'm definitely the one who set it up that way.
Oh, shit. I forgot I'm the one who sets it up. But you're supposed to double check it, buddy. Come on.
I'll learn that. We're only on year 1 of this thing.
Yeah, for about 2 more weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I remember last year we had recorded a few episodes by now, but we released the first one right after Council Bluffs, which is actually where I'm headed tomorrow and where you're headed a few days after.
Yeah, actually, we have an episode that we released on Council Bluffs, didn't we? Maybe our 3rd episode or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't, make sure to go check out our 3rd ever episode last year detailing our trip to Council Bluffs last year. That's crazy to think that was already a year ago. But that was sick. I mean, you won a ring out there. I final tabled 2 events. It was a great trip.
Yeah.
I hope we can do better than that this time even. There's a lot of really good events on the lineup. So looking forward to that. Did I already mention this is episode 46?
I can't remember if that was in the first or second take that you mentioned it.
I don't know, but regardless, it's just so weird to look back and think that we've done 46 of these. It doesn't feel like it.
It really doesn't.
No. And
it doesn't feel like we've been podcasters for a whole year.
I still don't feel like a podcaster.
No,
I just feel like I'm a poker talker.
Yeah, that's more what it is, term. Like a poker talker.
Yeah, we're just doing
it's just something we do every week now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we just do it more, just behind mics now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's cool. I like it. It seems like most people like it.
Yeah. I mean, they all do.
And
if they don't, they could shut up.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I'll back you up on that. So last night we had our 3rd meetup game on Clubs Poker. If you guys haven't signed up on Clubs Poker yet, make sure to do that. You can find our affiliate link in the description. Sign up using that to help support the podcast. Every 2 weeks we have a meetup game where we have a 55 buy-in tournament. It's a turbo. As well as a 25-50 sweeps coin ring game. It's been fun. We have people in there joining us every time. I actually won our inaugural home meetup game.
You did.
Yeah. And hold on, I'm not done yet. And then Wes got second in that one. And then in last night's, Wes got second again. To be fair, I busted pretty quickly, but
you did. You didn't even make the final table, and there are only 12 entries. So
what's the? Yeah, that was a slow burn. But I think now I lost my train of thought. I remember now. So what's the saying? It's always the bridesmaid, never the bride, or something like that. Maybe one day.
That's not that insulting because I don't really want to be a bride either. But
that's fair. That's fair. You will be someone's bride one day, though.
Oh, that's so sweet. That is so sweet.
That was a good time, though. And then congratulations to our meetup game champ, Jay Chard. Chaudhry is how you... I don't know.
Chaudhry.
I think I've tried to pronounce this dude's last name
I feel like it shouldn't be that hard. But yeah, is it Chaudhry or Chaudhry?
I don't know. Regardless, the dude's an absolute crusher. Been having my eye on him for a while. Jay, congrats on winning that. You got that new sweet tag in the Discord where you're shining all bright yellow, so everybody knows that you are the meetup game champion. Congrats on that.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll get that.
Probably not, but
we'll see.
You'll have to get through me again, buddy.
Yeah, well.
So a few weeks back, Wes, we did an episode talking about when we should check raise from the big blind and what kind of hands we should do it with. I think that was a really fun episode. This is kind of like a counterpart to that episode. It's from the other end. So the first episode was detailing what kind of hands we should check raise with from the big blind, whereas this one, we're the opener getting check raised.
Yep.
And so we're going to discuss how to move forward in the hand if we find ourselves c-betting and getting check raised. So should we just go ahead and get into it, or do we have anything else we want to touch on?
Yeah, let's just get into it. I mean,
Okay, and then after that, we should discuss more about our upcoming trip to Council Bluffs.
Yeah,
just tell
that
about
works
what we're
for
going to
me.
play and stuff.
that sounds good to me.
Okay, well, start us off.
Yeah, so just to touch on what you said, we're kind of progressing in a hand, right? So we talked about check raising the flop, and now we're talking about what to do if you get check raised on the flop. I don't know if we're going to do this for certain, but it's like maybe we'll talk about, okay, you check raise and get called. Now what do you do on the turn?
Yeah.
Just kind of walk through a hand, that sort of thing. So
Well, we know we couldn't do more than that in one episode because it's so deep and intricate that if we were to talk about it, these episodes could be 4 hours plus long. I mean, we don't want to put people to sleep, so we'll give them to them in little doses.
I think people would enjoy 4 hours from us. I think we're just that good.
Oh, yeah, they love your soothing voice, Wes.
They do.
Oh, God. Okay.
I've been told
All
that.
right, moving forward.
Okay, so what we're going to do is take a look at 2 different flops here. And we're going to look at if we're deep stack, like 80 big blinds effective, and if we're 25 big blinds effective.
And just to clarify, like we do in most episodes, we're not going to have a specific hand, like, that I opened or anything like that. We're going to look over a range of hands and what we would do with each of them. As that's kind of more of how we can break things down, make it a little bit easier to understand more situations instead of one specific situation.
Yep. Yeah, so kind of what I wanted to do here. So the first situation we're going to dive into is we're 80 big blinds deep, and we're in the hijack. We open, big blind defends, and the flop is queen 8-3 rainbow.
Are we going to assume that these are all non-ICM
Yes.
spots? Okay, so just no worries about being on the bubble or anything like that.
Yep. Okay. So we continuation bet for 2 big blinds, which is a third of the pot. And we get check raised, and the sizing of choice from the big blind here is about 7.5 bigs, so a little under 4x, and which is a little over half pot as far as the check raise sizing. And then so the question is, on this queen 8-3 rainbow board, what do we do as the hijack?
Yeah. Okay.
What are we doing with different sorts of hands here? And
So are we folding? Are we calling? Are we 3-betting? Or 2-betting? Three betting.
3-bet, yeah.
I don't do much 3-betting post.
Yeah, it's like, unless it's the sort of thing where you can just get it all, like 3-bet jam.
Right. Yeah. 80 bigs is going to be a little bit more tougher to do that. I do know you said we have a shorter range, our big blind depth that we'll go over, but I look forward to this episode because I think this will maybe open up my book a little bit. I know, again, I just don't have, especially in terms of bluffs, many 3-bets post to a check raise. So
Yeah, and I feel like what we'll see is when you're in position, you don't need to do a ton of 3-betting on the flop, at least in these sorts of
mostly
situations.
because you have position, you're saying?
Yeah.
With nutted hands or drawing type hands like backdoor flush draws, etc. Okay.
So what I kind of want to do is just take a really quick look at what the GTO response to this is, but then talk about if we make different assumptions about our opponent, what we're actually going to be doing, practically speaking.
Okay, so just to, again, clarify for listeners that are following along here, we open the hijack, the big blind calls, the flop comes queen 8-3 rainbow, meaning all three different suits, no flush draws. The big blind checks, we bet, was it 2 bigs from the hijack?
Yep, and we get check raised.
We see bet 2 bigs from the hijack, and we get check raised from the big blind to 7 bigs?
7.5.
7.5 bigs. Okay, so now we're going to discuss what kind of hands we want to continue with here, or maybe even fold.
Yeah, so I kind of divided it into a couple responses here. So as the hijack, I was looking at what are the strongest hands here that we're going to fold. So we can kind of assume that anything better than this, we're going to continue in some fashion with.
Okay, so probably folding like ace queen and king queen, especially like ones with like.
There's a queen on the board.
I know. Yeah, especially like ace queen of hearts with the backdoor flush.
That was good. You were very stoic about that one.
You totally believe me.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just kidding.
I was just like, you moron.
So I did look over kind of some of the show notes that we kind of hand back and forth ahead of time. So I know kind of what what it's saying, but I think. Do you want me to give you what I think?
No. So first, I'm just going to say what the GTO response is. Then let's go into what we think and what we're doing because of different assumptions.
That sounds good. Go ahead.
So basically, the strongest hands we're going to fold. We're going to sometimes fold like pocket sixes, fives, fours. So the hands that are
under second pair on the board.
Yeah, so we're beating
an 8 on the board.
We're going to be folding like ace jack offsuit, ace 10 offsuit.
So ace jack would be our best non-paired hand that we'd be folding, or ace king, I guess that might not fold.
Yeah, ace king off can like mix.
Okay.
But yeah, like ace jack and ace 10 suited without the backdoor flush draw folds too. So those are our strongest folds, and then the weakest continues. The interesting thing is we're actually going to continue some hands that are technically weaker than those other hands just because of playability.
Right.
So we're going to call with ace 5 suited and ace 4 suited as long as we have a backdoor flush draw.
So like ace 4 of hearts because the 3 of hearts is out there?
Yeah, any of the 3 backdoor flush draws.
Okay, so a heart, a diamond, or a spade, which are the 3 suits on board.
And the backdoor straight draw. So ace 6 suited and ace 7 suited we're folding. Yeah, and so those are going to be our weakest continues. We're also going to have some like, I guess technically if you're talking about our actual hand strength, the gut shots like 10-9 suited, jack 10 suited are obviously weak. Like right now it's just jack high and 10. So obviously those are like
continues.
Yeah, I don't consider those the weak continues because we have a draw to the nuts.
Yeah.
But
you're talking about non-draw, unpaired hands.
Yeah. So
okay. Can I give a quick disclaimer?
Yeah.
I just want people listening to kind of realize that this is what the solver is telling us what to do. Don't always just follow these to exactly what we're saying. Make sure that you're paying attention to who your opponent is and what their tendencies have been so far that you've been playing with them. Like if you've seen them be super aggressive and are check raising at a high frequency, you can then widen your calling ranges in these spots. And then if you think that they're extra tight and nitty, and I know we'll get into this more, you can maybe consider folding. But just kind of something to take into mind when hearing what we have to say about what you should continue and not continue.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So yeah, like I said, I'm just listing off what the solver says, and then we can sort of go from there. So then the other weakest continues are like king 10 suited, king 9 suited with a backdoor, which on a queen 8-3 rainbow, like I'll be honest, I'm folding these almost every time. So it's interesting to see like what the GTO response is so that we can figure out.
Why don't you continue occasionally with king 10 on the queen 8-3 rainbow with no backdoor flush?
With the backdoor flush.
Okay, only backdoor flush. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we're doing. And then as far as any 3-betting goes, there aren't any hands that we like have to 3-bet, but if we are, it's going to be, some pocket kings, obviously like pocket 8s and 3s for the sets. And then there's a lot of queen X that we want to mostly call, but sometimes 3-bet, and then some, basically most hands that you can call with, the solver wants to like occasionally 3-bet.
Interesting. Okay.
But I think it's also fine to just never, because there's no mandatory 3-bets. It's also fine to just not 3-bet.
So say we get check raised here. What is the absolute lowest strength hand that we should be check raising here, according to the solver?
From the big blind?
It's not check raising, that we should be 3-betting, I mean, as the hijack opener.
Well, it would be something like the same hands like king 10 suited, ace 4 suited. It's just those, you're mostly calling those, and then you...
I guess because we have position. We can also just, say we turn a flush out, we can just start bluffing then at that point maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of there are a couple of value hands that want to 3-bet a little bit more. And so it's not like there are good 3-bet bluffs here.
It's hard to balance these spots, I feel like.
But that's really all it's doing is balancing. It's saying like any of the weak hands that you can float with, you could 3-bet. And so it just does that with all of them at a really low frequency.
Okay.
Which is why I'm kind of saying like you don't have to do any of that, and you also don't have to. You just don't have to have.
That's eye opening, and I like it. It makes sense to me. I like it. Okay.
Anyways, so that's kind of what the solver response is going to be on that board. So to get into the discussion quick. So what would your thoughts be on why we want to, float with some hands like the King 10 suited, Ace 4 suited, but then we're going to do some folding with like pocket 4s, 5s, hands that are actually stronger?
So my first initial thought, and again, this isn't going to be my strong suit, but I think the reason why, so the board was Queen A3. The reason why we'd be folding like 4s through 7s here potentially is because we're often going to continue facing aggression from this point, and no card besides turning a set is going to be good. So we're kind of just punting off whatever we're calling with on the flop, especially if we're just going to fold turn if we don't flop a set.
Yeah.
Or turn a set, excuse me. So I think that's the reason why we would want to fold hands like that. And then the reason why we'd want to call with hands like King 10 of hearts on Queen A3 with 1 heart is because there's so many good turn cards for us. Whereas if we have one of those under pairs, we don't have a lot of, like I said, unless we hit one of our 2 outs, we're still in no man's land. So whereas if we have King 10 of hearts, any jack, any king, any 10, any heart, any 9, am I missing anything on there?
Ace,
any ace, yeah. So all those cards improve our hand to some sense. So I think there's just a lot more playability. Plus we have position at that point. So I think that gives us more opportunity to win the pot.
Yeah, I think the word playability is the perfect one to describe it, as you said. Like these hands that have really limited showdown value right now, some of them have a lot more playability. And I think we'll look at 25 big blinds here in a second, but especially when you're deeper, playability is more important, and the backdoor draws gain a lot more value. Kind of a rule of thumb is if you're shorter, like the shorter you are, the more important current showdown value is, because there just aren't the implied odds, right?
Yeah. You're saying, meaning that if they were to have a bigger stack, the chances of you getting a lot more.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay.
And so playability and implied odds for the backdoor nut draws and stuff is really important. We kind of already discussed this, but when you think of this spot, do you lean towards 3-betting more than the solver does, or not at all? And I think you kind of said that you don't really.
A lot less.
Yeah.
A lot less. I feel like I would probably, and I'm not going, I probably won't do this at all, but if I were thinking, considering the 2 ranges of hands we gave ourselves, say, for example, 4s through 7s, which would be third pair on this board, versus having the King 10 of hearts where I have, all that's the playability, I think I would be check raising, or not check raising, I'd be 3-betting more so with those lower pairs because I don't have that playability.
It's sort of like you're turning it into a bluff and then just giving up.
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal. I'd be turning it into a bluff and then giving it up if I met resistance. Whereas, those backdoor hands, I can call and then reassess on one of the many possibly good turn cards that could come.
Yeah. So let's talk about, because I think this will apply to more opponents than not in a lot of the tournaments that both us and our listeners are playing in. Let's say we're up against someone who we think is a little on the nitty side. Let's talk about what we want to do against those players. And one note I made is keep in mind, there are situations where I'll actually I don't know if this is one, but there are some situations where I actually bluff catch against nits more, because even though they might bluff a little less than usual, they miss out on all the thin value, So sometimes when someone's nitty,
they check back a lot of these second pairs and things.
Yeah, or they won't check raise a weak queen or an 8 at some frequency. So it's either one of the really strong combos, or even if they under bluff a bit, if you think they undervalue bet more.
That makes sense. Yeah,
in that way.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden their bluffing range is going to be bigger than what their value range is going to be.
Yes. Yeah. And again, That's a very general thing that I wanted to throw in.
Yeah,
I don't know if that
typically
applies
for the listeners, don't bluff catch nitty people too often. You'll find yourself getting ruined.
Yep.
But the logic behind that makes complete sense.
Yeah. It's more of a like very situational thing, and I don't think it necessarily applies.
Especially, that makes sense. I like it.
So yeah, if you are, and I'll just give kind of my initial thoughts. Like if I'm up against the average player and a 300 to 500 live tournament, that sort of thing, I'm going to be not floating with those backdoors. So instead of mixing in folds with like 7s through 4s, I'm just going to always fold those, right?
Yeah. Are you saying because you think in these fields their ranges are going to be tighter?
Yeah, I think they're going to be stronger.
Compared to a higher buy-in where people are more capable with wider ranges. Is that kind of the thought of it?
Yeah, that's the logic of it.
Okay.
So basically anything that's going to be, the floats, like the double back doors, the ace king, that sort of thing, I'm just going to fold like all of it.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it makes sense. My very first thought when you said that is I think I'm going to float depending on their size. A lot of like the king 10 of hearts here, the king jack of hearts, the ace 10 of hearts, just because.
Okay. So is part of that because you think this player is more likely to, like you're more likely to be able to bluff this player too on the later street?
Not only that, but my main reasoning is because I can't win the pot if I fold.
Good point, Max. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Yeah, like if I fold, I'm just losing the hand. So, and here's the thing. Here's the truth. Like, say I float with the king 10 of hearts on queen 8-3, and I get the offsuit ace that's not a heart, or the offsuit 9 that's not a heart that gives me a gutter. I mean, I'll just fold those hands. But say, man, I don't know. I might end up putting myself in tough situations a lot more frequently, but.
That's what I'm thinking, because like there aren't that many I mean, there are a decent amount of very good cards for those hands, but like
a jack, a king, or a heart are going to be, I think, our best cards. Jack being the worst.
Yeah, but still, most of them aren't going to be good. I guess like, what are we assigning this sort of player as a check raise? Like, what hands do we think they're going to have here?
That's a good point. On a board as dry as this, we have to assume that it's going to be a pretty strong hand. Especially if it's not an experienced opponent. Like if you go to Vegas and play against some pros, they're going to show up with like 9-10-0 here a lot, or like 10 jack, or these gutter type hands that have draws to the nuts.
Yeah, and so if in order to like profitably call with those king jack suited type of hands here, we have to assume they're also bluffing at least as much as the GTO line would, which means they're check raising like some 9-7 suited with backdoors, some like 5-4 suited.
And that makes sense. And if we don't think our opponent is playing these kind of strategies and are only check raising, made hands such as like king, queen plus, 2-pair plus on a board like this.
Yeah. Even if they check raise a gutter now and then, that still isn't quite all of
okay,
the
well,
bluffs.
even add that in there. Against most of their range, king 10 suited with the back doors and stuff like that is just going to be in shambles most of the time.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I would just definitely fold that, and like the ace X suited, pocket 7s through 4s. I'm just going to fold all that to an opponent who I'm giving this to. No
set, no bet.
Isn't
that what they say?
That is what some people say. Now I will. So I
but
will.
You could just represent the set.
You can represent, but it's tough if they have a set. A lot of the time.
It does suck. It does suck. But that was kind of what my thought was on sometimes turning 4s through 7s into a bluff here. Because if we have 4s through 7s, we can also have pocket 3s and pocket 8s.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying. My point is that.
But they can still just as easily have it.
Yeah.
So. Anyways,
I told you I was doing that at a very low frequency, if at all. So go ahead.
Anyways, so what about so overall, like now let's say you have like a 3 or an 8 against someone who's kind of nitty. Like, what's your strategy there?
If we get check raised,
yeah.
I mean, doesn't that fall into almost the exact same thing as having 4s through 7s?
The only difference,
except for we have a kicker that can hit 2 pairs. Sometimes.
We have 5 outs instead of 2 now.
Yeah, right. I think we should still be folding 3s and 8s and then probably calling with our better queens.
Okay. So like it's tough because it's very easy.
Because sometimes you'll see these opponents just check raise any top pair. Say he's got like queen 5, no backdoors.
Which is fine to do some of the time.
Yeah. But that's why I'm going to continue with like probably like queen 10 suited plus, queen jack off plus, something like that maybe.
Okay, so do you think you would fold like potentially a weak queen here? Like if you had queen 7 suited?
Really opponent dependent. And I have to have most of the time, no. The truth is, no, I'm not going to. Unless I have like a deep read that I think I'm just, one of those things where you ever have that moment where you're just like, your your intuition tells you like, get the hell out of this hand right now.
Of course, yeah.
And when those clarity moments pop up, now I'm getting off topic here, but when those clarity type moments pop up of my intuition, I just listen to them, even if I'm afraid of it being wrong.
Yep. I think more often than not, that's going to be a good thing, especially if you're someone who's very experienced.
Yeah. So I could go on about that exact topic for a long time, but let's continue.
Okay. So what about, this might not apply to most players, but what are you going to do if you think someone is just blasting? Like they're going to check raise anytime they sense a slight amount of weakness from you. They don't even care what hand they have.
So if this is the case, I'm going to find myself still flatting and not 3-betting a lot. It's probably... So let me give you a couple of thoughts that I have. My first thought is that if I have like a queen, like especially like a strong queen or even a set or a 2-pair somehow, I'm definitely flatting and giving my opponent some rope.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
My second thought was that if I, for some reason, have like a 3 or 8, say if I have like ace 3 here or like 7-8 suited or something like that, a part of me is inclined to want to 3-bet a hand like this to deny equity, but then also to take control of the pot. So say I check, or say I 3-bet the 7-8 suited here, which is second pair against an opponent who I think is just clicking, right?
Yep.
And then they end up calling the 3-bet. Well, now they'll check the turn and I get to check back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then we can reassess rivers if they somehow lead river or what. This is about not about.
Yeah. It's good to think ahead, though.
What's your thoughts on that, though?
I definitely agree with when you have a strong hand, you're just calling and probably calling them down the whole way.
I feel like you're going to make the most money doing that. Yeah. Especially if your opponent has the tendency to click like that.
Yeah, I think we also get to 3-bet more. I would say we're going to 3-bet some for like as a bluff or equity denial. So if we have ace 3 suited, for example, our opponent, even if they're bluffing, has 2 overcards. So we're going to 3-bet to just fold that out maybe.
To win the pot there or to control the size of the pot.
I also, I wouldn't, if we have a set of 3s, I wouldn't mind 3-betting that just because.
Like if we unblock the queen X's that our opponent could have to get value from.
Yep.
Okay. What do you think about like the 7-8?
I could go either way, just because it's a little less vulnerable.
Okay. Logically, you feel like it's sound.
It's the right logic. Like I would maybe the pocket 4s and 5s. I would 3-bet those. The vulnerable one. You could 3-bet like 7-9 suited with a backdoor. Just stuff, pure bluffs, but like. You could do a little
have
bit
a lot
more
of backdoor options.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would also say, and I know this isn't the topic here, but if you're against that kind of opponent specifically, you probably want to keep this in mind when you're c-betting and just like check back the hands that, let's say you have a weak ace high without a backdoor and you're just going to fold this to a check raise. If you have a showdown hand that you're going to fold to a check raise against someone who check raises a ton, just check it back.
Yeah, check it back. I like that. Let me clarify one more thing regarding what I was saying, and hopefully I held this thought long enough to still explain it correctly. But the reason why I'm going to end up just kind of trapping with my good queens and stronger hands is because I'm not worried about too many turn cards at this point. Whereas you said equity denial with the ace 3 or the 8-7 hands like that, like. Say we get to check raise from the big blind and we don't 3-bet this hand, any overcard all of a sudden we're just again in nowhere's land. And then if we want to start calling, then all of a sudden we might just be a value station for our opponent. So
yeah, I think there's essentially
absolutely
merit to to doing more 3-betting when even the hands that they're bluffing with have decent equity against
To
you.
clarify, this isn't a play I'm making almost ever, but against specific opponents that are very aggressive and are just, like I said, I'm a very feely, intuitive type player, and I pay attention to these opponents who I think are willing to just click at someone because they think they're weak rather than what their cards are. And if I get that vibe, I will for sure, Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we move on to the next flop, let's talk a bit about, let's say we're 25 bigs deep to start the hand here.
This changes things a lot.
Yeah. So this...
Because this is where we have get it in strategies.
We do. So just off the top of your head, facing a check raise here, what is going to change for you before we even say what the solver difference is going to be?
What's going to change for me? I'm going to probably stop check raising.
3-betting?
Gosh, I keep calling it check raising. I'm going to stop 3-betting. I'm going to stop 3-betting a lot of the hands that I already still probably wouldn't 3-bet though, like my ace 3, because then if you're 3-betting, you're just going to be getting it in.
Mm-hmm.
And do you really want to get it in? I mean, I don't know. In my opinion, no. And if say 7-8 again, so second pair type hands.
It sort of takes away that ability to like 3-bet as a bluff.
Yeah.
Now, I will say the solver technically does do some of that, but it's...
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a thing I've ever done.
You're in dangerous waters if you start making moves like that. Hands, I would probably just 3-bet. So we bet 2, our opponent bets.
So in this case, if we're shorter, it's going to be we c-bet 1.9, and then we get raised to just over 5.
Okay.
So we technically could click it to 10 and then fold like an absolute airball type hand.
That's a very online-esque play.
Yeah, it's a very solver. Yeah.
You can really get into the weeds with stuff like that. I tend to avoid lines like that and take spots that I think I'm more comfortable with in my game. Whereas I know that's something you would have in your arsenal a little bit more than I do. So maybe you can
yeah, but even this specific, the 3-bet to 40% of my stack is,
I guess what's the question? Yeah. What hands am I wanting to 3-bet getting it in with here compared to
or like, are there certain types of hands you are more or less likely to continue with?
Yeah. I mean, I might start folding a little bit better, honestly. Like, so we were talking about folding third pair, like 4s through 7s on the 3-8 queen. Mm-hmm. It's so sorry if you guys can hear the alarm. It's the first Wednesday of the month.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't even think they can hear it. So I probably, it gets way more tough when you get shallow here, but I might start folding even stronger hands. I think I'm just going to be getting in any queen I've opened at this point, because otherwise I'm just going to be exploited too much, I think.
Yeah.
But I might start folding like 8s through 10. I mean, 8s through jacks is the exact same thing as 8s through 10s. I don't know.
Yeah. 9s through jacks.
Or 9s, yeah, no set. Yeah, 9s through jacks. So I might start folding those hands, honestly, because maintaining fold equity with the rest of my stack and my tournament life has so much value at that point. So I might be folding a little bit of a better range there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's sort of my instinct. Not necessarily the showdown hands, but my instinct is to fold more of the like the suited double backdoor type of hands.
Yeah, and I'm going to stop floating with a lot of those type of hands as well, because I'm just not deep enough for that implied value that you were mentioning earlier. Like, I'm not going to win as big of a pot if I somehow do walk into one of these made hands as well. So, and I'm not going to hit those hands at any sort of high frequency. So I'm just going to be bleeding off too much at that point on that stack depth.
Yeah. So it turns out the solver actually wants to still continue with all that stuff.
Well, the solver's stupid.
Yeah, well, the solver's playing against itself, which will be bluffing sometimes. And I think when people have 25 big blinds, they're not check raise bluffing with just like the backdoor stuff that frequently. So I think the way that we instinctively want to play is tailored to exploiting the opponents we're playing against.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, like, I think we're right based on who we're up against mostly. Turns out, I mean, honestly, the solver is going to play pretty similarly at the two stacked ups here. So there's not like a ton to dive into as far as
Right,
that
but
goes.
so that's an interesting point you brought up, because like the solver's going to play the same at the two stack depths, whereas a real human player, especially in these 300 to 1,500 price point buy-ins, are not going to play those two stack depths the same. Definitely not.
Yeah, and I think even though we're not considering this an ICM spot, people innately want to survive the tournament a little bit more, and so when they're short,
Well, they have drive home equity, which we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
You know, the GTO bot doesn't have drive home equity.
Yep.
The drive home equity being, you know, you bust and then you got that whole dashboard confessional, you know,
Yeah,
slam
or
to
the
steering.
rebuy line, whichever one.
Or
it may be.
yeah. So there's more factors to take into consideration as a real live player than as a computer,
Absolutely.
especially emotion.
Emotion's a huge one that is not accounted for here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about one other flop here.
Ooh.
And
I like that though, because I like that you brought up that last one. While you load this, I'll just talk about those are dry flops.
yeah,
But depending on what type of opponent you're playing, whether it be a recreational to a good player, it's going to change a lot. Like a good player will take those flops and exploit a lot of opponents. I feel like because it's so dry, they might check raise wider with gutters and things like that. Because me as the person who's c-betting, I'm going to, especially, you know, as a decent, you know, a skilled player, I'll think, well, this is a dry
Wow.
opponent. My opponent doesn't shut up. My opponent doesn't have too many draws in this board, so I'm going to fold a wider range.
yeah. I think it's important to point that out. It's like the natural bluffs.
Yeah.
When we talk about like the Queen 8-3 rainbow board, there just aren't really natural bluffs.
Yeah.
And I think so the next board we're going to look at is 7-7-8 with two diamonds.
Okay, so there's going to be a lot more semi bluffs on this kind of board compared to the Queen 8.
Yeah, and I think when we're talking about the type of player, the type of opponent that we face a lot, they'll find natural bluffs. They'll bluff.
That makes sense.
They'll
yeah.
check raise the diamonds, or you know, the 10-9 type stuff. When there's
And
a
we
clear
love
draw.
that. We love that as opponents who think about the game, because we know that we can make wider calls on rivers when all these hands miss. Whereas on these super dry boards, it's harder to make those calls.
Yeah, we're gonna fold a lot more on the dry boards, but also that's because we're assuming we're not being exploited that much, because we're just not going to get check raised much.
Right.
If an opponent is check raising a lot, then we go back to more of what the solver might do.
All right, let's get on to this next one.
Yeah, so 7-7-8, two diamonds, and we're gonna start at 80 big blinds here. So we'll do the
Same
same.
positions, hijack, big blind.
Yep, hijack big
Same
blinds.
sizings. We open, they call, they check raise.
Yeah, so in this case, I actually did a smaller. I'm just doing what GTO Wizard says is the most common check raising size on this board, which is actually a pretty small. Like, so we see bet two big blinds as the hijack.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Does GTO Wizard, do they change? Does it change its sizing from based on 80 big blinds to 25 big blinds, or is it check raising the same size?
It does change that, and it'll end on boards.
I'm assuming
too.
its size will be smaller the smaller the stack depth.
That's generally true. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's gonna just recommend the best sizing for that situation. And so in this case, like the small check raise on the paired board, I think that has something to do with it, where we know our opponent. Anyway, so the sizing, the check raise sizing that's going to be the most common here is just to like 5.5 bigs.
Okay.
When facing.
But we're 80 bigs deep. Okay. I can tell you right out of the gate, I'm going to be calling a lot more hands on a board like this compared to the first board.
Yeah, and so before we like dive into that, so what would be the sort of hands you're going to fold here?
7, 7, 8, 2 diamonds. Is that right?
Yeah. So I put two diamonds, one spade.
Honestly, like ace 10 through ace king with no backdoors, just like dry broadways essentially.
Yep. Yeah. So like
Any
King
sort
Ja-
of Broadway combination that doesn't have any sort of backdoor playability.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously like Jack 10 has the gutter, but other than that, like Queen Jack off.
Yeah, Jack
King,
10 I would not,
King
especially
Ja-
if it has a diamond.
yeah, like King Jack of hearts.
King
all that
Jack
stuff.
through Ace King with no diamonds, essentially.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I mean that's basically, and then obviously like the Ace X suited, King X suited. That's has no pair, no draw, like Ace 3 of hearts or something, sort of thing. Too.
Kind of falls into the same boat because I mean a lot of our other hands that we would continue with have some sort of draws.
Yep. So that's pretty much what the solver says. The only difference
I'm a genius.
The only difference is it wants.
We didn't go over this hand previously, by the way.
No, we didn't actually. We didn't at all.
All right, go ahead. I feel like that's super common. I'm just kidding. Like it's very basic logic. So go ahead.
Yeah, we do want to, just against the small sizing, we do want to float with like Ace King and all the Ace Queens. That even like some King Queen with no draw.
Yeah,
just because we're good sometimes,
and you can be ahead. Right, you can be ahead here sometimes. It just sucks when you get any turn card almost.
Yeah,
that doesn't improve your hand.
Yeah, and the logic is like we're only calling. We're getting like 4-1 here. So yeah, we're gonna face a turn bet a lot and we're gonna fold a lot, but that's okay because it's just it's not that much.
We'll
more.
never give ourselves an opportunity to win the hand if we fold.
Yeah.
As I said on the last one. We like winning hands around here, Wes.
We do like winning hands.
Yeah. And we will fold if we're really pinched, but other than that.
Yeah. So then the GTO response is we're gonna 3-bet with a lot of our 7X here. We're just deep and we want to get money in. It's pretty simple.
As the big you mean as the opener?
As the hijack.
As the
yep,
hijack.
we want to
So
3-bet
okay.
7X. And then we want to do some 3-betting and some calling with our diamond draws and our like queens through 9s over pairs.
I know I said I didn't have many 3-bets on the last board. I really like 3-betting a hand. Like, say I have like A7 suited on this board or something like that on 7, 7, 8, 2 diamonds. I really like 3-betting this hand because now we have a lot of equity denial on a board like this that the big blind can have so many sorts of straight combinations and flush combinations, especially when we don't block any of that, and we get a lot of value from those hands. So yeah, 3-betting a hand like that on this board makes complete sense. Hands, if you have another thought, I don't want to block that out.
Yeah, no, I was just finishing up by saying what the solver does, so then we can discuss
What
if
hands?
and when we're
Okay.
gonna deviate.
Continue.
Yeah. So basically the 3-bets are diamonds at some frequency, 7X at a higher frequency, and then over pairs at a pretty low frequency.
I am not going to be 3-betting even aces here, I don't think.
Yeah, I think aces is actually not going to like it's the more vulnerable over pairs that we want to.
That require some sort of equity denial.
Yeah.
So like pocket 10s plus, jacks plus?
Yeah, like queens through 9s. And I mean, when we flop 8s full, we can actually 3-bet or call here too.
Because we're hoping getting value from 7s plus straight draws plus flush draws.
Yeah, even though it feels like 3-betting a full house on the flop is crazy, we actually
Our opponent is telling us they have a hand right now by check raising.
a lot of the hands they continue with, we actually don't block at all with that.
Yeah.
So even though we have them dead.
I like that as well, where most people have that. Well, here's the thing. I think you can do both maybe with 8s here because especially if we think our opponent is a clicker like we were talking from the last hand, we want to give them rope.
Yeah.
And we're not afraid of any cards pretty much.
Yep.
So, give them rope. But against, I think both are fine.
Yeah.
3-betting and just calling.
I totally agree.
Whereas if I had just a 7, I think 3-betting is probably more valuable because we have to defend our hand to some extent.
Yeah, I agree. We benefit more from getting money in now against, not necessarily benefit more, but it's like with a 7, there are action killers for us.
We're worried about diamonds. We're worried about a ton of different cards that complete straights.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So I think we're probably both in agreement here where in this scenario, we're going to play a little bit more like the solver just because it is easier to see our opponent's check raising as a bluff a lot more. Or as like a semi-bluff.
Yeah.
Not, I'm not.
I like to call it a semi-bluff because, their hand is, they have equity, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I feel like a lot of people will. It is just a lot easier to bluff catch when the semi-bluffs are obvious. You know, there are a lot of hands that your opponent can check raise here that just make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we kind of talked about the only folds are going to be the hands that missed and don't have a lot of playability.
Are we going to talk about continuations and well, I guess we talked about 3-bet hands.
Yeah.
Let's talk about hands. That we're just going to call with.
Yeah. So honestly, if we look at what the solver says, there are no hands that are going to be mandatory 3-bets. So like we can call with a lot of stuff.
Let me ask you, what's your weakest hand you're calling with on 7, 7, 8, 2 diamonds as the hijack opener who's been check raised from the big blind?
Yeah.
80 bigs deep.
Yeah, I would say like it depends on how you define weakest. Obviously, like Jack 9 suited is only Jack high, but it's a gutter.
Yeah, and it might have a backdoor flush draw, depending.
Yeah, then I don't think it even counts as that weak.
Yeah, that's, okay.
So
You're talking about just dry. Okay.
Yeah, I would say one thing to note is we should be calling with the under pairs here too. And obviously the under pairs kind of hate this board, but the thing is
we block straights.
I don't know if we want to block straights.
I mean straight draws.
I don't know if I think we want to hope our opponent has that kind of.
Right. No, sorry. What I'm trying to say is we block their outs, some of their outs. Like say
we could cooler them sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
so so it's 7, 7, 8. Say our opponent has 9, 10, and we have pocket sixes. That's kind of my point.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I see what you mean. I think that, it does mean that like sixes have a tiny bit of implied odds there too, where we can just completely cooler our opponent.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is like we're getting 4-1. It's a tiny check raise and we're deep. If we just hit that 2 outer on the turn, like we're going to fold.
And sometimes we don't even need to hit it.
Yeah. If we're facing a turn bet though, like let's say the turn is even a blank, like queen of hearts or something, everything misses. If we have pocket threes and our opponent bets again, we can maybe call, but it's going to be tough.
You're saying if we called the check raise on the flop, yeah, especially if it's like a non-completing. Say the queen of clubs comes on the turn.
Yeah,
something like that. Then we can continue calling. You saying?
Yeah, we can. My overall point is like with the under pairs, we're mostly going to fold the turn if we face more aggression. But the thing to keep in mind is occasionally we won't face another bet, but also like if we hit that 2 outer and they keep betting, sometimes we get a huge pot. And even though it's only a 2 outer here, we're facing a small check raise with deep stacks. Like it sounds weird to call it a 2 out draw, but like we have huge implied odds if we hit the 2 outer and then they keep barreling.
I think this changes from the 80 big blind to the 25 big blind stack because we have so much more implied odds with those pairs at the 80 big blind stack compared to the 25 big blind stack. We can potentially, win a massive pot compared to winning a medium-sized pot.
Yeah, I am curious. I actually don't remember what it was for the 25 big blinds, and I'm going to look at that now. I think the other thing is like off 25 big blinds, we're going to just fold like deuces.
Yeah.
I'm saying pre-flop.
Well, you might, but
yeah.
Deuce Nukem,
Deuce Nukem doesn't do that.
I'm just kidding. I definitely will fold deuces at that. Again, I'm very aware of, not that I need to defend myself here, but I'm very aware of opening ranges compared to big blind depths.
Yeah.
However, if you find me on the button with 25 bigs and pocket deuces, if you think I'm folding it.
Well, I don't expect you to do that.
Would you? Okay, hold on.
No, not on the button.
Okay. All right, we can leave that one there.
That's a different discussion. Okay, so before we go to 25 big blinds.
I was about to just slap you if you said yes. That's right.
I just speechless.
Wes is shaking his head at me right now.
Okay, so we got, before we jump to 25 bigs, what sort of exploit, like let's talk, if you're up against someone who's either really nitty or really, really loose, like are there any big deviations you're going to make on those, on that specific board?
Man, sorry, I have to think about this for a second. I think it kind of goes in line with what intuitively I would do on most boards. I'd open my calling range, my check raise, calling the check raise. I'd make it a little bit wider if I think my opponents are capable of just clicking, whereas I think I might fold a little bit more if I think my opponents are tighter. Does that go against kind of what you were saying in the first hand, though? Because I know you were saying you were willing to bluff catch more. But I think in this case, I mean, we're not to the river, but obviously.
Yeah, this one's tricky, I feel like, because I think the really aggressive opponents and the more nitty opponents are going to play more similarly on this board because the bluffs are more easy to come
They're
by.
natural.
Yeah.
As we're saying. Yeah.
Like,
that makes a lot more sense. So there's not going to be a huge difference between getting the tight player and the aggressive player's check raising range here.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to fold, quote unquote, overfold a bit, obviously you can go like the king, queen off or the ace, jack, ace,
At 80
queen.
bigs, I asked what the worst hand you're folding is. What's the best hand you're folding?
Best hand,
no information on opponent.
Like
7,
ace,
7, 8.
jack.
2 diamonds.
Yeah, like some of the ace high.
Jack of diamonds?
With no diamond or
No diamond.
with no backdoor flush draw of any sort.
Okay, so you're almost pure calling ace, queen, and ace, king, even if they have no backdoors?
Yeah, it's kind of all the same at this point. I think the one thing that sucks about having a jack is we block some of the gut shots.
Yeah, the jack 10. Jack 10s. Yeah.
Jack 10, jack 9, yeah. Yeah, so maybe ace, jack with no backdoor flush draw. And also if they, we're looking at a really small check raise here. If they make it slightly bigger, I'm going to fold some under pairs probably.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and then maybe I'd fold ace, king, ace, queen without the backdoor as well if they sized it up a bit.
I love that we can just sit here and talk poker and I can look over and it's just like 50 minutes later.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I feel like we've been talking for 10 minutes.
Yeah. No, it goes by quickly.
It does. That's awesome.
This is kind of a look-in at when we drive to a Riverside or a Battle Creek, like
yeah.
We'll just we'll talk about something else and we'll kind of talk about this sort of stuff and it makes the time go quickly.
It does make those drives. So and I know a lot of you listeners who've come up to me and said you enjoy the podcast, listen to this or listen to us on these kind of topics to motivate yourself as you go to these fire keepers, council bluffs, et cetera. And especially when you got those 9-hour drives, I hope this makes it quicker for you because it's so quick for us when we're just sitting here talking about it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, that's a good way to segue into me telling the listeners that this is actually going to be a 9-hour episode.
We have a few more concepts to go.
14 different flops. And
so essentially, if you're going from Minneapolis to Council Bluffs this week or next week, we got your whole ride there and whole ride back covered.
Yeah. You get to just listen to us the whole time. What an absolute treat.
Oh, God. Yeah, I think that's a great segue. Should we discuss a little bit? Any last things on that?
Yeah. We're going to do 25 bigs here.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, let's do that. And then we'll get into Council Bluffs.
So 25 bigs, I'm just going to say we look at the solver. The biggest difference, we're actually going to fold about the same amount. So we're still going to float with the under pairs. And I think that we have less implied odds, but we have more, the shorter you are, the more you want to focus on your showdown value right now.
Yeah, and we have showdown value with our hands here.
And we do have showdown value. The biggest difference is we're going to do a little bit more 3-betting and we're going to almost pure 3-bet queens through 9s because those hands at 25 big blinds, we just want to get those in.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Going back to having those under pairs, we see bet 1.9, big blind, 1.9, right?
Yep.
Big blind check raises to 5 point, what was it?
Now it's 5 big blinds.
We'll just say it's 5 big blinds. So we see bet 1.9 big blinds. Big blind check raises to 5 big blinds. So if we call this, we now have 20 big blinds because we started the hand, right?
18 because the pre-flop raise.
Pre-flop,
yep.
2 big blinds. So are we essentially just folding to any turn? Because, here's the thing is if we don't turn a set and they bet anything unless there's anything, we just kind of have to fold, right? Because then we're all of a sudden we're bleeding. We're not going to have any sort of fold equity for future jams if we end up losing this hand.
So no, because at this point, if the draws miss, we're probably going to keep calling.
We're just going to but does that differ from the 80 big blind then?
I think, well, it does in the sense that your reverse implied odds are not as bad when you're shorter.
Okay.
And so, like, when you think about it this way too, if like we said, the queen of hearts or clubs comes on the turn, our pocket fours now have a lot more equity against their draws. Like, their draws might have been slightly favored or 50-50.
Right. And if they brick, now we have more equity on the turn.
Yeah, now we're a huge favorite against those hands.
Can you, for the listeners, can you quickly describe reverse implied odds? We've discussed implied odds. What is reverse implied odds?
Reverse implied odds is basically a classic example is, let's say you have ace 10 offsuit, you face a 3-bet, you call, board comes like ace high, and you're 100 big blinds deep. And it's the sort of thing where it's like, if we face a bet, another bet, and then a big bet on the river, a lot of times we're going to end up losing a big chunk of our stack because we're dominated, you know?
Yeah.
Like king jack offsuit.
So yeah, that makes sense. It's the opposite of the implied odds where we would make a ton. We would just lose a ton.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where it's like there are a lot of potential really tricky situations where the reason they're tricky is because we are going to be losing to their value bets. And yeah, we're just going to like put ourselves in a situation where we can either lose a lot or win a smaller pot. You know?
Yeah. Do you like how I disguise my ineptitude by saying for the listeners instead of saying for me?
I like it. But you knew what that one
Yeah,
meant.
I know. I just like to talk crap.
Yeah. Clever.
All right. So, yeah. So 25 bigs. We're going to be calling with these under pairs a little bit more.
Yeah, we're going to be, regardless, we're going to just call with these under pairs regardless of stack depth, but for a little bit different reason, I think.
Okay.
So the biggest difference is we're going to 3-bet the over pairs, and we're not going to 3-bet the sevens because we have there's just no version where we're folding the turn with those, you know?
Yep.
So we don't really need to deny the equity. So if we call the check raise, the pot's going to be 12.5 or 13 big blinds, and we're going to have an SPR of like 1.3 or 1.4. And so, yeah, the biggest difference here is we are just going to call with 7x instead of 3-bet, and we're going to 3-bet with the overpairs, like pure 3-bet, instead of mostly call with a little 3-bet.
Okay.
Otherwise, the response is pretty similar. Do you have any last thoughts as far as from an exploitative standpoint?
No, I agree with all that. I guess the last thing I want to bring up on it is, can you conclude, or what's the word I'm looking for? Can you condense the differences between the first board where it's dry queen 8-3, queen 7-3, queen 8-3,
Queen 8-3,
compared to the 7-7-8 diamond? What are the biggest takeaways between those two boards that we should consider when continuing, when check rate, 3-betting? I
think so. They're kind of in the same. It kind of falls into the same category, but
we're facing the same action.
Yeah. So I have two pieces of advice that are kind of the same, just different sides of the coin. So you should, as an exploit on the queen 8-3, you should probably overfold. From a GTO standpoint, you should overfold more because there aren't natural bluffs, and most recreational or even most pretty good players are not going to check raise as a bluff very much on queen 8-3. The other side of that coin being, you should challenge yourself to check raise as a bluff more on queen 8-3.
It's so hard, right? I mean, it's not hard to do the action, but it's hard to make it logical. Or
it's hard to know when it's good, and it's also hard to pull the trigger when you have 9-7 suited on queen 8-3.
And then it's hard to figure out how to play the rest of the hand because we're not there. You know what I'm saying? There's more to the hand after more than what we've discussed here. We still have another street or two.
Yeah, and so I think that would actually be another good episode.
Yeah.
I honestly, I had the thought during this, like, we should keep these same boards and then just look at check, raise, call.
I think for future concepts like this, and this is us just talking about the podcast at this point, but we can make them a 3-part series, right? Just to have them connected in a way where people can go listen to 1, 2, and 3. Because this one is not connected that way. If this is essentially the second part of another episode we did, which is you check raising, what hands you should check raise from the big blind. So now we're back to the position of the opener who's getting check raised and how we can continue from that point. So listen to both these episodes as you'll get a deeper grounding of both situations and how to move forward from there. But then again, like I'm saying, we still have the turn and river, which the pot's bigger at this point typically. The ranges of cards that come out matter. So yeah, we'll get into maybe do a third episode on that stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, part of the reason why it's harder to check raise as a bluff on a Queen 8-3 rainbow board is because it is harder to correctly play the turn and river if you don't get the great run out. And
that was my point of the question.
Yeah, there's a lot of logic to it. So I think, biggest takeaway is probably overfold when you get check raised on those boards.
On the dry boards compared to the wet board, like in the second scenario.
Yeah. And then, conversely, like check raise a little more on those because I think people are going to see-bet those boards a lot, the Queen 8-3 rainbow. So you can probably check raise people and sort of... I exploit, but not even really because you're... Like maybe try and play closer to GTO.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So that's the big. I mean, I think the 7-7-8 board is a little bit more straightforward for most people. Just in this specific situation, I think the check raises and facing a check raise are a little bit not easier, but more natural because there are those natural bluffs in all the draws. I think the last takeaway is like, as we talked about, when you're a little shorter, if you have a hand, let's say you have a hand that you're comfortable getting the chips in now, but it's a little bit vulnerable. That's the sort of time you should 3-bet when you're facing a check raise.
Okay. I like that. And is that because we just, we're taking control at that point rather than calling off?
Well, it's for value. It's for value in a situation where we think we're not as likely to get value on later streets if we just call.
Okay.
Or might not have the hand strength ourselves.
To what the board currently is, this is how we're going to get the most value. Okay.
Yeah.
Get Cool. All right. Is that the last on that?
That's the last on that.
Finally. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Let's get into one last thing. I know. You know what the best thing about this is? I say we're over time, but we're really not. It's going to be as long as we want.
Yeah. We've had much longer episodes.
We have. So with that being said, what is the next week and a half look like for you and myself?
Yeah, so I am going to be going to Council Bluffs for the circuit.
Tonight or tomorrow?
I'm going to go tomorrow.
It's Wednesday, as I had mentioned earlier.
Yes.
The alarm, remember? The siren thing. So I mentioned.
So when this episode is coming out.
While you're listening to this, Wes will probably be on his 5.5 hour drive.
Yeah, or I might be playing. But yeah, so there's going to be, I might get it there. There's a 250 2-day, and then there's a 250 1-day tomorrow. I'm going to play at least something tomorrow, and then Friday and Saturday are day one flights of the 400.
Which I
won last year.
Yeah, wasn't it a monster stack last year, or was it just a 400?
It was, so there was the monster stack was during the week after.
Okay, I final table that one.
You got third in that one.
Yeah, that's right. I just wanted you to bring it up.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
You also final tabled the main. We final tabled 5 combined tournaments.
Tell me more, Wes.
Yeah.
That was super fun. So you're going to play this week in the 400. I'm actually sitting this weekend out. I'm going to go check out Renfest with the wife.
Nice.
It's going to be sweet. Spend some time with her. And then all of next week, heading out Monday. For us, essentially a full 7 days, I'll be there. So you'll be 10 days. I'll be 7 days. Mm-hmm. We got an Airbnb not too far from the casino. We're just going to fire away and hopefully just bring home some rings. Multiple would be great.
Yeah.
And a ton of cash.
Yeah. And maybe we'll see a few of you down there. It's going to be a lot of them are 400s, and then there's an 1100 during the middle of the week.
The 1100 one day on.
Yeah, I think they played the final table on day two, like the final 5 or something.
Yeah, if it takes so long, I think they did that last year. It's kind of, it doesn't say it's a multi-day is essentially my point on the thing.
Yeah. So it's so confused. Some of them say they are and they aren't, and some of them say they aren't and they are. So the main event is a 1700 2-day, And so that's the next coming weekend. We will have an episode out.
I will say I
Before
do
then.
love. Yeah, we will have one next week from Council Bluffs. So maybe
Yeah.
we can discuss that. We'll do maybe a Council Bluffs episode next week. But I love the main event. I was gonna say it's 40-minute. It says 1,100 straight. Or no, 1,700. Excuse
Yep.
me. $1,700 event. The first day, day ones. There's 2 day ones, I believe. Day 1A and day 1B. Both 40-minute levels. Then day 2 moves on to 60-minute levels.
That's right.
I love that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That makes it a really good structure.
Yeah,
on day
when
2.
you're later, and day 2, I remember, oh my gosh, on day 2 I was chip leading out of the gate. I had like 1.2 million on the first level. It was crazy.
I think
I was running so pure.
yeah, what? Because you were chip leading coming into the day, or you at least were chip leader from the first.
Was that the
flight.
tournament I almost bubbled, but then no, that was the MSPT.
No.
I'm mixing that up with the MSPT where I hit that where I had 10s and he hit the queen and then I
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah,
Anyways, getting off topic here, but
yeah. No, yeah, you were like chip leader or very close to chip leader coming into day 2, and then you
just
won a
ran
massive
pure
pot.
at the beginning, yeah.
And-
And then I think you busted out ace queen to like 5-6-0 or something.
Yeah, I faced the 3-bet jam for 25 bigs with 5-6-0, and he
He had
made
to
a full
read, man.
house.
Yeah, he had. I just, you know what? I'll just let that one sit.
Yeah.
I think Wes is still recovering from that. And actually, you handled it very well.
No, I remember because I'd been running really well, and I was like, you know what, the poker gods can't make it that easy on me.
Yeah,
Like,
and you
that's
had
fine.
been. I mean, yeah, they had the massive summer, and then not long after you hit another 100K at the Fall Poker Classic. So I'm rambling at this point. Wes, should we go ahead and start wrapping things up? Do the usuals.
Let's do the usuals.
All right. So moving on, guys. I say it every episode. Discord. Make sure to hop in there.
We're up to 207 in the Discord.
207 different people, unique people,
Yeah.
unique entries.
That's not true. I've made 50 accounts.
Oh, 50 of them are you? Wow. Hop in there. Check out the link on our Suited Kings on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, at Suited Kings Pod, Pod at the end there. Suited Kings Pod. The pinned tweet at the very top has a link you can click, get access to our Discord. In there, we'll have, different channels talking about strategies, whatever we got, live tournaments, online tournaments, people just, making new friends and with, people who have similar likes. So your phone is distracting me, Wes.
Mm-hmm.
Get in Discord.
It was a Discord message, though.
Was it? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. From someone in our Discord.
Yep.
Get in there, make some new friends, get better at poker. It's free, so why would you not do that? And then also we have our meetup games every 2 weeks on Clubs Poker. Make sure to get into Discord. We can chat during the meetup games. It's a great time. Again, I'll put the affiliate link for Clubs Poker in the description box. So go ahead and use that affiliate link to help support the podcast. Other than that, yeah, I think we'll talk to you guys next week while we're in Council Bluffs.
Yeah, that sounds great. Good luck to you guys. Good luck to both of us, too.
All right, sign us off, Wes.
All right. Everybody, have a good morning. Have a good evening, afternoon, night, weekend, week, or whatever time
Holiday.
it may be.
That was last week.
I think that's it.
All right, later, guys.